Shade tech detected. Rogue incinerator turret detected. Rogue assault turret detected. Rogue striker drone detected. Incoming. High risk hostile.
Hello everyone and welcome to another build video. For today's video I want to show you the Negotiator Dilemma. This is one of the best builds in my opinion that have been changed for a long time, and it's actually one of the highest DPS builds in the game from what I tested so far. So let's get into the build. I'm choosing the sharpshooter for this build. One is for the stability and second one is when we reach the backpack, because there is an high importance to use the sharpshooter for this build, especially if you're playing Negotiator Dilemma. So let's go into the weapons. First one, I have the Cold Relations. This is basically the best weapon in slot in my opinion for this build, because it has the perfect strength. So the perfect strength says gain 10% critical hit damage for every 0.5 seconds you are firing, stacks up to 8 times. Because this weapon has low RPM and high magazine, that will mean that you will be hitting a lot of damage, especially with this build. Let me show you the mods for this weapon. It has only two weapon mod slots for this one. So one is I place the critical hit damage, and the other one is critical hit damage. Now for the secondary weapon, I'm choosing the classic M1A for this one. Why did I choose the classic M1A? Because it's probably like the it's not necessarily the best weapon in my opinion, the best rifle, but it's actually top 3 in my opinion. So the classic M1A is very good for this build. Also has rifle damage, critical hit damage, and you need a lot of critical hit damage for this build. Damage to target out of cover, and a ranger. I'm choosing ranger for this weapon because I'm usually using this at longer ranges. Now for the sidearm, I choose this one, the Regulus. If you don't have the Regulus, you can use whatever you want here, but because I'm not using any exotic weapons on the first and secondary slot, I choose the Regulus. The Regulus, it's an entire quest that you have to do in order to gain some of the parts, and then you have to there's something that you need to do. I think that you need to get like the recipes or something like that, and then you need to go inside the Operation Iron Horse in order to get the parts and create this weapon. Now let's go over into the build. So the first thing is the Negotiator's Dilemma's mask. It has 50% critical hit chance for 2 pieces, 3 pieces 20% critical hit damage, and 4 pieces hostile negotiations. So critical hits mark enemies for 20 seconds, up to 3 marks total. When you critically hit a marked enemy, all other marked enemies take 60% of the damage dealt. Whenever a marked enemy dies, gain 2% critical hit damage, stacking up to 20 times until combat ends. As you can see here, weapon damage, critical hit chance, and critical hit damage. Now for the chest, I'm choosing the Sokolov for this one because I'm using the SMG with all the reds, as you can see right here, and unbreakable. For the holster, it's actually the Negotiator Dilemma, the second part, with weapon damage and critical hit chance. For the knee pads, I'm choosing the Overload because this is the best in slot for especially when you're using rifle, and this one gives you 8% damage to target out of cover, which is multiplicative damage. For the gloves, this is the third part of the Negotiator's Dilemma, with weapon damage and critical hit damage. And this is the last part that we need to discuss in order to see why I choose the sharpshooter and why is this backpack so important. So this is the fourth part. As you can see here, weapon damage, critical hit damage, and critical hit damage. The talent itself, so the increase hostile negotiations damage to additional marked enemies from 60 to 100%. So this talent right here, when you critical hit a marked enemy, all other enemies take 100%. Sorry for the 100% instead of 60 of the damage dealt. Now, using both either the Cold Relations or the classic M1A will deal a shit ton of damage, but the one point that you need to take in consideration, if you mark all 3 enemies and you shoot in the head an enemy with your TAC 50, so the sharpshooter weapon, you can reach 12 million headshot damage if you hit a critical hit damage. That means that all other marked enemies will receive 12 headshot damage, 12 million headshot damage. So that's a lot of damage. That's why I choose the sharpshooter for this one. And mainly, besides the stability, it's actually a good weapon to actually hit from afar, because the classic M1A can hit to a long range, but not necessarily to a sniper range. So if you mark, let's say for example, two enemies, and you see a sniper in the far, you can switch to the TAC 50 and actually headshot. If you hit one headshot and that's a critical hit damage, all two other enemies will be dead. Only if you mark the Chang'es. The Chang'es will need more damage, but for the rest of them, you're going to kill them very easily. Or if it's an elite, you will deal a lot of damage. So, in my opinion, this is the best way how you can set this one up. And this build alone, this gear set alone, it's actually one of the best for the DPS. And in my opinion, if it wasn't changed from a long time ago, and it's still reliable, it's still one of the best, you can say, playing either the raid or PvE content. Not recommending this at all to play in PvP, because marking it's quite tricky. You need to shoot in order to mark, and because this one has 126k armor, you're going to be melted quite fast in PvP. Try this one in the dark zone once or twice, and it's actually fun if you can mark the enemies. You mark two players and then start shooting at one of the NPCs, because you're going to deal damage to them. But I still don't recommend this one. I just did it for fun. Still playing this on PvE because it's a very good build and it's reliable, especially because this build actually does more damage if you play with the if you play by shooting different enemies. Most of the players, they don't use this one because you need to shoot and deal critical hit damage to one target, then you need to switch to shoot another NPC, and then you need to hit a critical hit damage again in order to mark them, and so on and so forth, until you get the 3 marks. Then you start shooting at whatever you want, because you can fire at the first target marked and then deal damage to the rest of the two. So in my opinion, this is the build that it's not necessarily a huge booster from the stats alone, but from the gameplay that you use in order to do that significant damage. Let me show the stats real quick. So 60% critical hit chance and 144 critical hit damage. Quite impressive in my opinion, because the gear sets only have one attribute slot. The other one is a mod. So yeah, 144 close to 160% critical hit damage, that's a lot. So I'll probably say like it's a very good combination. And for the skills, basically it's quite straightforward. You will have the Revive 5 because like I said, PvE build, and this is probably the best in slot skill to have. And also the Fixer Drone, because yeah, it's going to heal you here and there. Trying different drone, for example the attack drone, it's not that good because it doesn't have too much damage and also doesn't stay alive for a long period of time. So in my opinion, Fixer Drone is probably like the best for this build. So yeah, I'll probably say like that's it for this build. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new to see more The Division 2 content like this, and until next time, have a good one.